Welcome to the Change Within podcast. My name is Gerard Uselli, and we are on episode 60. This has been an unbelievable journey as far as how we've interacted with so many people to explore the change within, so many perspectives, and for them to showcase how it's impacted their lives. This next guest is no exception to the rule. From yoga to starting her own business, Karoline Gora. Karoline, how are you today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So something that I always like to ask all of my guests, especially on the first question, is what your childhood was like growing up.
So I have always been a pretty active kid. I'd say my childhood was pretty active. Bike riding, running around, playing games. It was pretty adventurous as well. My parents immigrated to Canada over 30 years ago and from Poland. And so, starting out, they didn't have a lot of money, but they wanted to take my brother and I out exploring. So, they're very outdoorsy, adventurous people. So we live in Edmonton, or I used to live in Edmonton, but we moved to Edmonton, which is about 4 hours away from like our national parks here, like the Rockies. And so they took us there every chance that they could, fill up the Chevy Sprint with gas, like the tiny car, pack us in there, and then go for even just the day. We'd go hiking. Sometimes we'd go camping. And so I feel like, there was a lot of adventure and exploring. And I think that really instilled my need now to go on like road trips and hiking. And I go to the mountains at least like once a month now. I live a lot closer.
Right.
So yeah, it was great.
So as a follow-up to that, and this is just something I'm curious about, as you've done all these different road trips as well as camping, did you feel like when you got into yoga, that was kind of like an escape from being so active and moving around so much, as far as like yoga being so instilled within one case of surrounding?
Yes. It's definitely helped me balance out. I do a lot of weight training as well. So I feel like having something that like certain yoga is still pretty vigorous. Like it depends on what yoga you're doing, but I've recently really got into yin yoga, which is just like slow right down. So you're holding for anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes in one pose. And it has really helped me with my patience and like just staying in the moment, staying present. Because what are you going to do? Get up in the middle of a class?
Yeah, right.
So, right. So, it's really helped me just like stay put and really embrace the present moment. So it's good to have that balance for sure. It's really helped.
And also to add to that point, yoga is one of those activities where there is no such thing as the past or the future. It's all in the present.
That's right. You got it right.
So to kind of step it back just a little bit, tell me about the first time that you came across yoga.
So I was either just finishing college or fresh out of college when I was like 20, 21, I want to say. And my friend was an avid yogi and she was like, you know what? Why don't you try this yoga class with me? It was at a mall in the Lululemon store back when Lululemon still did free yoga classes right before the store opened. So an hour before the store opened, they moved everything aside, had a clear space, and then they just invited you to set up your mats and whatnot. So I went, this was at like on a Sunday morning, I think it was like 8 a.m. or something like that. And I just remember feeling a little out of place, but I left feeling so good and so at peace and so chill that I was like, oh my God, like this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. And ever since then, I've been practicing, like I'd say for about the first few years, I was like on and off, but it's been pretty consistent the past year or two. So that's where it all started.
Well, kind of just to bring it back, even though I don't really do yoga, I work out every day.
Yeah.
and something to kind of reflect on as far as how it gives you that amazing feeling, especially after you're done doing your activities. So for
Yeah.
me, as I'm on my elliptical every day, as I'm working out at the gym doing weights, to release those endorphins on a daily basis and to actually have some like some stimulants to towards your body, it makes a big difference as far as how your mindset works. And even
Yep.
without thinking about it, just with like forcing the thought, you're able to be much more creative in who you are as a person.
For sure, for sure. And it's really good to also, like, we keep with weights and everything like that, you keep building and building and building muscle, and like it creates a lot of tension. So to have some release mentally and physically is just like, just let your muscles get stretched and just relax. Like it's super, it's really good. It's I would say it's something that everyone should do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, at least a few times a week. It doesn't have to be an hour, just 5-10 minutes,
Look,
put
I've
on
been
some music.
planking at the gym now for about 3 to 5 minutes a day. And let me tell you, I think that's a good introduction to what I could expect and also a bad introduction at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Right on.
When did you feel like you were skilled enough to teach yoga?
So I think about 7 or 8 years into my yoga practicing period or whatever. I think 7 or 8 years into it, I started to, understand different yoga classes. I'd go either at the gym or at a local yoga studio. I would do hot yoga, all sorts, just to kind of dabble into different types. And so I was getting a little bit more familiar with the different classes. I also had a good grasp on the basics like Warrior Two, Down Dog, Baby Cobra, all that sort of thing. So, or all those sorts of things. And I started to notice I had more body awareness. So I knew how I was supposed to look, where I was supposed to sit, and like where my knee was supposed to be, and that sort of thing. So I started to offer teaching my friends and my mom here and there. And then I just said, you know what? I feel like I'm ready to, spread the yoga knowledge to others and to actually teach to people who aren't just my
You're
friends
going to put
or
them in a
family.
position they'll forever stay in.
Yeah. So yeah, I felt like that was when I was ready. And it's good to get a good grasp of your own practice first, because it's so important to also keep up with your own practice as a teacher. So once I felt like I was, practicing enough, that's when I was like, okay, I feel comfortable teaching others. So yeah.
Definitely. Now, what you were talking about patience a little while ago. Now, maybe to elaborate more and other traits as well, what role does yoga play within your mental health?
It plays a huge role. I have anxiety and, you know, scattered thoughts, probably some undiagnosed ADHD, who knows? So I feel like it's really helped elevate my mood. It really, like, I've never left a yoga class being like, wow, I feel like crap. Like, I feel
Right.
terrible. Like, I've never had a feeling like that before. Um, so it's really helped elevate my mood. I find I sleep better. I don't sleep perfectly because for whatever reason, but I find it's really helped me with my sleep schedule and like taking care of my body better, eating better. My mind feels a little bit more clear on the days that I go to class. I feel less anxious and just basically balanced overall, and just embracing the present moment. I still worry, or sometimes you go, oh, I shouldn't have done that back then, or I wish I did that, and then it's like, no, you're in the present moment. Do not rob your happiness in this present moment by thinking of the future or the past. And that's what I tell my students too, is like, when you're in class in this moment, do not think about the past, do not think about the future, because that's not what you're here for. You're here for the present moment. And I feel like that's really, really helped me stay present and in the moment, and, embracing everything that comes my way in that moment.
I think also at the same time, when you're in those present moments doing the exercises themselves, something that I've taken some knowledge to as I've had a lot of friends do it and tell me their experiences, it really takes the adrenaline rush of just focusing in and honing in on what you're doing. Because as you're thinking for the future, the first thing that probably comes to mind with them is that they want to be done. And if they want to be done, then they're going to feel like, okay, I've accomplished something to the bare minimum, and then probably leave inevitably, be like, okay, this is cool, but I don't think I'm going to do it for a while.
Yeah. And also when you're in a pose, you're kind of, we're our own worst critics. And so when you're doing a pose, it's not about what it looks like. It's not if you're in the full expression. You don't have to be in a split position. You could just be doing the first step to a split position to work towards it. Maybe you want to work towards it, maybe you don't. But I feel like it helps you release judgment about where you are in your practice and where you're currently in a certain pose. And I think it's really important. And it just, like I said, it helps you release any judgment of yourself. And that also helps transfer over to your life too, like not judging your appearance or not judging, I wish I had this, or I wish I looked like this. It's just, this is what my body is like. This is what it does for me. It does amazing things. Like, it just really helps give you a new gratitude for yourself, or show you gratitude for yourself. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And kind of to elevate that to giving yourself like a further sense of imagination, this is what I'm talking about in sense of your business. What changes did you have to make in your life to start up your activewear business, Cyan and Stone?
Right. So in time-wise, didn't have to change anything because it was during COVID. Right. And financially, I actually had money saved up to move to Australia in March of 2020.
Oh my God.
So that was already, I'll do a recap of all the changes that I've gone through the last year and a half. But so I was supposed to do that. And so I took that money and I just invested in this business that I've wanted to do for a long time. But a big thing was letting go of the idea of being perfect or having the perfect product or the perfect launch before releasing it, because that just was going to delay me. And that did actually end up delaying me for a few months, because I was like, well, maybe this will do better. I don't know about this, or what am I going to, what's it going to be called? So I really had to let go of the idea of perfection. I just needed to just choose something. And if it worked the first time, great. If I feel like it was good, like it was a good idea, if it was a good product, if it was a good color, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do that. Move on to the next task. And also in the beginning, it was really hard for me not to compare myself to brands that were already established. Like when you're starting out, you're like, ooh, do I want to be like that? Or, so it's okay to get certain ideas, like just inspiration from different brands, not copying, but I needed to just move away from that and just focus on what I stood for and what I wanted it to be, what customers wanted, and just move away from the comparisons. So getting rid of the idea that it needed to be perfect, and kind of moving away from the comparing myself and like seeing how many followers that one brand had that has been in business for 10 years. So
right. With the whole team.
Yeah. I was like, oh, looking at certain activewear companies, I was like, oh, wow, they're doing really well. And my boyfriend's like, honey, they've been in business for 11 years. You can't compare yourself. I was like, I know. I have to not. I have to put that away. So, yeah.
Well, also, it's a nice thing at the same time as you're starting a new entity and for the aspects of not trying to perfect yourself, I think you get better results, at least mentally, as far as how things are being marketed. Because as you further anticipate things, as I'm guilty of myself, thinking that something's going to do well, then it really doesn't. It maybe just sets a standard. Or if it's just like, okay, yeah, you know, it did about like a couple thousand views, but no big deal. Those to me, I could have like 500 views on another one. And honestly, I'd be more proud of the 500 and be disappointed with more of the views.
Yeah, exactly. Like putting such a high, like setting yourself such a high standard is just like, if you don't reach it, it's just going to disappoint you. So it's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do my best, and then I'm going to learn from it if like I didn't see a certain reaction, or if I didn't see a certain response from it. So yeah, it's hard not to, though, because you know
that's what makes
you're
us
so
human.
passionate.
That's what inspires change to actually look at it better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So to take a little bit step back, I wanted to know a little bit more about this. So as you were just trying to get yourself out there, what inspired your name for the business?
So I am a lover of being outside, as I've stated in the first bit of the podcast. I actually lived in Los Angeles for a few years. And so not every Sunday morning, but a couple Sundays a month, I would drive out to Santa Monica or Venice Beach, park my car, and just go for a long run or go skateboarding across the sidewalk all across the beach. And I just loved being near the ocean. I just felt so great being next to this massive body of water. It just felt so grounding. And so, and then so that's where I got the name Cyan. Is the color of the ocean I chose turquoise at first, but I felt like a lot of people would have trouble spelling it like I do.
Fair enough.
So
I get that.
Yeah, like I'm like, OUOISE, like. So I decided to go with something a little bit easier to spell and something that would be easily marketable. So I chose Cyan. And then in terms of stone, growing up near the mountains, you know, going to the Rockies all the time, I wanted to pick something that represented that part that I loved so much. And I ended up choosing the name Cyan and Stone. So
do you feel like, here's an interesting thought. Do you feel like the stone aspect to your name, and especially being in the mountains, do you feel like that kind of reflects the boundaries that are in your way being in those mountains? Do you feel like rocks kind of like represent boundaries that you have to set for yourself? Because here's the way I think of it philosophically speaking. Like you're walking around these like you're just walking around these mountains, right? Like you're hiking, you're in a full like adrenaline rush trying to make it from point A to point B. The rocks are kind of like the hurdles you're seeing in your way, and you have to set boundaries for them. So it kind of like sets your own expectations.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Kevin O'Leary, watch out.
Sorry?
Kevin O'Leary, watch out.
Oh, that was good. I like that. I like that a lot.
To take it more to like your branding, for what I've seen on your website, and I found this to be very interesting. So if you want to explain to our viewers, how does your brand contribute to environmental impact and sustainability?
So it all starts from the top, or I should say the very beginning. So what my clothing is made of is a yarn called Econol. And so this yarn is made from abandoned fishing nets, industrial plastic, carpet fibers, like tulle, you know, that tutu material, that crinoline, like that sort of material. Right. So that is all ground up and made into this yarn and then shipped off to Italy, which is then made into this activewear fabric. And then it gets shipped off to my manufacturer, and they're not only eco-friendly in the factory, they like educate all the employees on how to be more eco-friendly. They have a no plastic bottle. They've been plastic bottle free for years now, which is amazing. They're also very ethical in terms of like, they have above average labor standards. Nobody works over 40 hours. They have a clean, bright workspace. They even encourage like work-life balance. They have great health insurance. And then so once that material or the clothing gets shipped to me, I do my best to be as eco-friendly as, but like I run my brand through my home. And so I've recently switched over from like plastic to cardboard boxes to mail out. I don't use paper. I only print out like labels and whatever if I need to. Anything else is on my whiteboard, on the computer if I want to plan things out. And then I try to walk to the post office when I can. And if not, if I have to drive somewhere that day, I just plan out all my routes so that it's along the way, just so I minimize, getting in my car and starting it up and then getting just for the sake of just dropping one package off or two packages off. So yeah. So, and, I'm always striving to be more eco-friendly on my end. I know the manufacturing plant or manufacturing factory is as eco-friendly as I've ever wanted it to be. Like, it's just, so I try to minimize from my end using plastic and things like that. I try to be as eco-friendly as possible on my end. So yeah.
Well, I think in a bigger picture as well, I think it also pays a testament to the technology that we have and actually taking advantage of it.
Yes. And also I forgot to mention the material that my clothing is made of is called recycled polyamide, and it could be easily recycled like as is. So if you're done with a pair of pants, it could be broken down and made into another pair of leggings or another sports bra. Wow. Whereas, yeah. So we're just, reusing, and also at the same time getting rid of landfill and ocean waste, because there's just so much textile waste these days. And there's a lot of garbage and plastic and everything that ends up in our oceans and our landfills that takes so many years to break down. And like, you take something that's made out of like a polyester nylon blend, you can't separate those two to make it into a new fabric. So it just fits and it breaks down ever so slowly. But so yeah, this recycled polyamide is a great way to reduce the textile waste that's happening right now. So
well, I think what you just said is also a testament to putting time into research and development, because with those two components being said, you were able to come up with something almost proprietary to who you are as a person. It's kind of like attached to like what your persona is, how it carries forth throughout your life, which ultimately brings me to my final question. What is the biggest change you want to see for yourself?
Well, personally, I would love to be more organized.
As we all.
Sorry?
As we all.
Like I have a planner and a whiteboard, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. It's like I thrive off of the stress or something. Like, and then also I want to not be complacent. I've gotten to a place in the past several times where I've just been comfortable and I stayed there and I didn't notice any changes in my life. And I was like, why is nothing happening? Like, life is just so blah. So I want to continue taking risks, because from 2020, from even the start of 2020, all the way until this past week, I have made so many changes in my life and my career that I just want to keep it going. Like I said earlier, I was supposed to move to Australia. I had a visa. I had a plane ticket one way. I didn't know where I was going to go. What I was going to do was just going to live there. I took a yoga teacher training course, started a new relationship, started a business, moved to a new city, taught my first in-studio yoga class like this past 2 weeks ago. And so I want to keep that going because I feel like I've grown so much and I don't want to stop any opportunities that are coming my way. And I just feel like I just keep growing as a person. And yeah, I want to keep taking those risks.
I think growth is every step of the ladder to a higher plateau of yourself. And this interview really knows no bounds in that regard. So, with that being said, that concludes episode 60 for the Change of Him podcast. For those who want to check us out but have never had the chance to, please check us out at Anchor, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you very much for joining me today and have a great rest of your day.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.